Can you hear me? Can you hear me? How are you? We cannot hear you. No, we cannot hear you. It is saying that I cannot be unmuted since I am on stage. Hi, Rajasthan. We cannot. Can you talk? No, we cannot hear your voice, ma'am. Connection.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Quick question. Do we get a copy of this? How does this work? Should I be filming it on my end?
Yes, you'll get a copy of this. We will share you
Okay, just
the
making sure.
part of your presentation. I would like to introduce you to the audience. So, welcome on stage, Rachel Richardson. She is an internationally respected workforce development strategist, social impact leader, and community advocate dedicated to advancing equity, economic mobility, and workforce reintegration. With over a decade of cross sector leadership, she designs trauma informed, human centered systems that empower individuals and strengthen communities. Through her speaking, consulting, and collaborative initiatives, Rachel inspires transformational leadership, social justice, and sustainable opportunities for lasting change. So that was a great introduction of Rachel Richardson. So the stage is all yours. Good luck.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I am going to share my screen with you guys and we're going to get right into it. So I teach a framework and it's called Trauma Ate My Mama. I go all across the country and I'm able to present a framework for young people into schools. But I wanted to go ahead and adapt that for us here as grown-ups. Hello, somebody. um, So let's start this thing out. So trauma ate my mama, reclaiming your identity beyond adversity. So as we've heard all week, and especially today, a lot of the people have been through a lot of stuff. And so this is exactly how we do it, because trauma affects at least 70% of adults. And some studies report that 81 to 83% of youth have been exposed to traumatic experiences in some form. Now, maybe they haven't been raped or beaten, but I mean, a divorce is a traumatic experience. Nowadays, these kids are literally having to do active gun shooters, active shooter drills within their schools. That produces traumatic experience because our body remembers the things that our minds want to forget. And so what we have learned this week, and especially today from a lot of our presentation, a lot of our people, our presenters, is that the things that they thought were going to break them has been able to make them. They took what their survival stories were and they turned them into thriving stories. And I absolutely love that. Trauma survival is when we try to forget that thing and move on. We try to forget the divorce and we move on. But guess what? We get married again. And when we get married again, the same trauma, the same situations that we had within our first marriage start to rise up. And when they rise up, how do we handle that things? Our body automatically goes into shutdown because it's what we remember from the first time. Anytime our new husband may raise his voice, we might automatically feel like this is it. We're going to be divorced. So our bodies go through what we've already been through. It doesn't allow for us to go through anything new at times because it only functions with what it remembers to do. And so trauma survival is just that, trying to forget it and move on. But trauma-informed leadership is when we use what we have survived to thrive. That job loss now becomes an opportunity to start a business. That loss of a child even now becomes the opportunity to help other mothers walk through the loss of their children. The incarceration that we went through, it now becomes an opportunity for us to help other incarcerated people when they get out. What are their next steps? How do they navigate this new system with felonies now? How are they able to get housing? How can they get jobs? How can they rebuild the life that they once had, even with their own children? Again, when we become trauma-informed leaders, we use what we have survived in order to thrive. And so one of the things when we shift from a trauma-centered narrative to a strength-based perspective, we get to transform our pain into purpose. So what we focus on grows. If we only focus on the bad thing that happened, then nothing good can come out of it because, again, our body is looking for a response. Trauma, there is pre-conscious trauma in the womb. So just a baby being born naturally or in C-section, a lot of times newborns and infants, they start screaming and hollering in the middle of their sleep. And we're like, what is the matter? The baby's only 2 weeks old. They literally are reliving that trauma again. And so when we shift the things that we see, a trauma-centered narrative to a strength-based perspective, we are able to transform our pain into purpose. And the sooner that we can start looking at the thing that is happening for us as a strength and not a weakness, the sooner we're able to transform the pain into purpose. Now, pain becomes a purpose when it's dealt with properly, when we don't wear the mask of that thing anymore. When we walk through that divorce, we say, okay, what was my role in this thing? And how can I be better or do better next time? Because guess what? We're not going to run from marriage just because we had a divorce. We're not going to run from a new job just because we got fired. We're not going to run from the ability to have a great job or to get housing or to take care of our children just because we were incarcerated. Not anymore. We're not going to wear those masks. We're going to be ones who take what we have been through, we process it properly, and then we're able to move on to the next mountaintop within our lives. I was able to write a framework called Trauma Ate My Mama. And again, I go in, I speak with elementary, middle school, and high schoolers, because what I have learned being a trauma-informed coach is that dealing with grown people who have stored up all the trauma for all these years is a whole lot more difficult than working with young people and allowing for them to learn trauma resetting techniques in real time, so that as the trauma happens to them as they're going through middle school and they're being bullied, or they didn't make the soccer team, or their parents get divorced, or they got their first breakup, or maybe they got pregnant like I did at 15 years old in high school. Maybe their trauma looks a little more severe than somebody else's. Well, the goal is to get them to learn somatic breath. The goal is to get them to learn how to really hug themselves. Sometimes you just need a hug. We don't always get the hugs from our mom and dad. So part of trauma is reminding your body you are okay. You're all right. You are right. You are going to make it. You're going to live through this thing. And so the quicker that we can teach young people these resetting techniques, the more likely they are not to become old people who need to be reset all the time. So research indicates that resilience building, supportive relationships, and purpose-driven engagement, things that matter, they improve our mental health, our self-efficiency, our community participation. When we recognize lived experience, it reduces the stigma and it unlocks our leadership potential. When we recognize through some of the speakers today, the sicknesses that one went through, the job loss that another went through, recognizing those things and speaking about them, it reduces the stigma about those things. When we're able to take a divorce we've been through and then grow and learn and teach others with it, it unlocks our leadership potential and it reduces the stigma. I've been married to my husband 22 years now. We didn't even kiss before we were married. We only dated 7 months. That's not everybody's story, but to God be the glory, it is my story. And what I do is I teach the One Up Challenge, and it's used to bring out the purpose from the pain. My name is Rachel Richardson. I am the real one. If you go to www.rrtherealone, as in the number one, .com, you're going to find my website. And you know what? I am the one who was able to take my One Up Challenge, own my story, right? That's the O in one. Own your story. Okay, it happened. Okay, it happened. In 1998, I shot a gun in the air. The bullet ricocheted off a sign and I accidentally killed my uncle. For many years after I was let out, because I was convicted of second-degree murder with the use of a deadly weapon, I got the same conviction that a man who deliberately slices his wife into pieces and takes her body out on a boat and throws her into a river, he was convicted of second-degree murder. I was convicted of second-degree murder for shooting a gun in the air at a graduation party, a college graduation party. That bullet ricocheted off a sign and killed my own uncle. I was literally convicted of second-degree murder with the use of a deadly weapon at the age of 21 years old. That verdict was eventually overturned because before then, I was a kindergarten teacher at the YMCA the night before I was a convicted murderer. I had never had a juvenile record. I never had an adult record. I never had been in trouble I never had a speeding ticket. So for me to be convicted of murder was drastic. So once they overturned the verdict and I came home, I never went to an actual prison. I stayed in jail for 222 days fighting this case. I did not go to prison. Even after I was convicted, the judge ended up overturning the conviction because once again, I was a YMCA teacher. I was not a murderer. So the system that was designed to safeguard me obviously failed me, but my God didn't. And so when I got out of prison, I could not own that story. So I became a drug addict. I became an alcoholic. I left my children. I abandoned my life. The guilt, the shame, everything that I carried from that tragic accident almost killed me, like a lot of our other speakers have spoken about. But you know what? Once I got into a community who helped me to navigate that pain into a purpose, I was going to pick up 400 ecstasy pills and kill myself because I thought death was going to be the only way that I was going to be able to break out from the pain that I was living in. But I made a wrong turn on a wrong street and I pulled up to a car wash for Victory Outreach. Now, if you don't know about Victory Outreach, it's a ministry that reaches gang members, drug addicts, prostitutes, down and outs. And there was a young man who had a teardrop tattoo on him. And when he had that teardrop tattoo, I knew he knew what I was feeling. Because in my neighborhood, if you have a teardrop, that means you've taken a life. And so when he said to me, there is no pit. Now, mind you, I only pulled over to call my connect because I couldn't find his house because I'm going to pick up ecstasy pills to kill myself. I had already wrote a letter that said, if you find this, I'm dead. My children need to go with my mother because I don't want them to go with their drug dealing fathers. And I need to make sure my kids are taken care of. I had already checked out of life when I pulled up to this car wash. And this young man with a tattooed teardrop says to me, there is no pit that you are so deep in that God's hand cannot reach down and pull you out of it. I would not have heard that from anybody else, but I heard that from this young man because of that teardrop tattoo. And I went into the Church of Victory Outreach, the Ministry of Victory Outreach, and they helped me learn to navigate my pain to purpose. Navigate everything I've been through, the rape, the molestation, the teenage pregnancy, the incarceration, everything that I had been through. navigate that thing into purpose. Now go reach other young Rachels so that they don't have to walk through the pain that you've walked through. That's the E. Go empower others. What you have been through is not for you when you have lived through it. It's not for you anymore. And when we have a united purpose to make sure that people don't have to go through what we went through, we learn to own the story, because it didn't happen to you. It happened for you. It happened for you. This is my mom and me. I grew up mixed. I was a mix. I was black and white. There was no mix. There's a show now. It's called Mixed-ish. It talks a whole lot about my life. In the 80s, there were no mixed kids. You were either black or you were white. And if you weren't black or white, you didn't fit in too much of anywhere. Became a mommy myself at 15 years old. Look how young I look. I look like I was a day over 12. But now here I am. I'm an only child. I've never changed a diaper. I've never made a bottle. I've never done anything. But yet I have this life that I'm responsible for at a young age. But I navigated the pain to find purpose. And I ended up writing a book recently when I went out to Paris with IDS, with the same conference, who invited me back to speak this time. And I won the Woman of the Year award. But I wrote a book called Beautiful, From Pit to Purpose. And it talks about my story. I was able to navigate the pain to find purpose. And now I've written a little book about it so that the book becomes an example to others on how they too can navigate their pain and find purpose. And when you look at my book cover, it tells you a little bit about my life. My mug shot's there. The picture in the top is me with my daughter. That was when I was 15. And then the picture next to my mugshot is a picture of my son. I had my son when I was 20. My mugshot was taken when I was 21 years old. Woman indicted with the charge of murder in the death of her uncle. So when I wrote this story, it was, what would I tell the younger Rachel, that young girl in the corner over there with her little glasses on and her unibrow? What would I tell the younger Rachel? I would tell her all about that Rachel down there in the corner who was healed and made whole now because she was able to take her story of survival and do more than just survive. She was able to thrive, because now I impact others through true impact, not just impact that is made up in numbers, or I have a framework that I teach people. No, I'm going into the prisons. I'm working with the women coming out of the prisons because I have a united purpose to keep others from ending up where I once was. When I got out and I couldn't get housing, couldn't get a job, couldn't get anything because I had this felony, I lost my mind. That's what drove me to drinking and drugs more than anything else. Yes, the guilt and the shame was there, but if I could have got a job or taken care of my children, maybe I would have moved on quicker. But because I was not able to get those things, I would never work with children again, they said, because of this charge. All these things, it blew my mind. And so thus I turned to drugs and alcohol. But what happened for you doesn't happen to happen. It doesn't have to happen to others because of you. Your life matters. Everything that you have been through, it matters. And when trauma ain't your mama, it can't tell you what to do. I now get to host these community events where I go out and I get community partners in, and we're doing community nights, and we're taking back our city. We're stopping the violence. We're doing the Enough is Enough sexual abuse campaign, where we're going in and we're identifying. I can identify a young child who's being sexually abused because I was one. I can identify a young girl who's been sexually abused because I was one. I don't look at them like other people look at them. I don't look at them like problem children. I don't look at them like, oh, they're fast and they think they're grown and something happened to this baby girl. Something happened to that young man. We need to look further than the surface. So I'm able to go and partner with different communities and host community events and help bring different resources together, bridge the gap between police officer and gang members and all the things now, because I took what happened for me and I'm making sure it doesn't happen to others. I now have a pen pal program that I've been able to enlist a community of chaplains with. We write the women in prison. I was a workforce development specialist over at Hope for Prisoners, but I love what Hope for Prisoners, they're low. I am hope. I am hope. Because of what I went through, I am hope. This is part of what I do. Your past does not disqualify your future. I get to go in and talk to business leaders now and decision makers, and I get to remind them that the best work experience is life experience. Who else to talk to an alcoholic than one who has been recovered from alcohol? Who else to talk to somebody who's actively using drugs than somebody who's already come out of using drugs? Who else to talk to an incarcerated person who's afraid to get out and actually have to live life than a formerly incarcerated person who has already gotten out and been able to live life, and not just live it, but navigate the system for you. So I'm very passionate about making sure that people in high places know that we are not what we have done. Do not judge a book by its background check, is what I like to say, because trauma ain't my mama and it can't tell me what to do. It does not define me, control me, or determine my future. The pain in that thing has a purpose. The resilience in that thing, it equals true leadership. And the adversity that we overcome equals opportunity for us to help others overcome as well. You can always reach out to me on my page. I wanted to make sure I ran through this presentation so that I would be able to take questions. If anybody had any questions, that way you wouldn't have to I noticed in a lot of the things I was speaking, a lot of people were asking questions, but the questions weren't being answered. So I said I was going to run through this slideshow real quick because I wanted to make sure that if you had any questions about trauma or even resetting techniques, that's one thing I want to do since I don't see any questions over here in the chat. I want to make sure that I teach you practical resetting techniques right now. One of the best things that I have learned, right? It's called a butterfly. You put one hand here. You put your other hand, so you cross your hands on your shoulders, you interlock your thumbs, and you simply tap. Breathe in through your nose, breathe out through your mouth. Before I came on here to speak, I was doing this butterfly tap, because I can get real intimidated when I stand in front of a group full of people who are more than what I think I am sometimes, who have doctor in front of their name, who have, many years speaking and doing all these things. I start to question if I'm worth it. Do I belong in a room with these people? I did the same thing when we went out to Paris. But I had a daughter who was in Amsterdam going to school. And I thought, hey, if I can get to Paris, I can get to Amsterdam. So I had to do this just recently. Before I came on here. Another really, really good technique is simply giving yourself a hug. Wrap your arms around yourself. Squeeze yourself tight. Woo! Remind yourself that it's going to be all right. That I got you, girl. I got you. If nobody else has you, I got you. You breathe in through your nose. Breathe out through your mouth and tell yourself, I got you. Rub your arms up and down, from your shoulders down to your elbows. It doesn't matter if you just got your pink slip and you got to switch job. You just got fired from your job. It doesn't matter if you got an eviction notice. It doesn't matter if your kids are acting up. You are still not alone as long as you got you. You have a creator who loves you, created you for a purpose, on purpose, and you are destined to get through whatever you're going through so that you can pull other people out of what they are stuck in right now. This is not about you. This becomes about others. It becomes about taking that pain and navigating it into purpose. And when you're able to do that, you are able to remind yourself that you are somebody and you belong. Thank you very much, Dr. Greenhut. That's what I remind myself even this morning as I'm listening to all the doctors and people. So how do you distinguish between acknowledging trauma and letting it define you? When trauma defines you, trauma is something your body remembers even when your mind wants to forget. So when it defines you, it automatically says to you, just like trauma, I've been through so much in my life that I don't think I'm worth being in a room full of doctors and different people, such as the people who speak on these type of stages. But so my trauma defined me for many years. I could speak to girls in prison, but I could never get on a stage like this. And so because my trauma was defining me, it was telling me, oh, they'll never receive your message. Oh my, as soon as they hear that you were convicted of murder, they're going to check out. As soon as they hear, and that was my trauma defining me. But once I acknowledged my trauma and I allowed for my body to reflect on the fact that, girl, you made it out. Not everybody makes it out like you did. Not only that, but you have a successful marriage. You have successful children. You have, and again, I define success as those who keep it moving. They go through things, but they don't get stuck in it. They go through it. And so again, once you acknowledge the trauma, you're able to say, yes, this happened to me. I did go through this. And breathe it in. Own that story. Yes, I went through this divorce. Yes, I have a child who's incarcerated. Yes, I'm sick. I have a debilitating disease. Whatever it is, own that thing. But then see, what do I have this for? It didn't happen to me. It's happening for me. And that is exactly how you're able to distinguish between simply acknowledging the trauma and letting it define you. As long as it doesn't rule you, then you're okay. If it stops you from doing that thing that is put in your heart to do, it's now defining you. And we don't let trauma. Trauma ain't my mama. It can't tell me what to do. How can resilience help overcome trauma? Resilience is overcoming trauma. Resilience is literally getting back up again. Things happen to you, but that doesn't mean that those things are going to have to keep you down. Excuse me. They don't have to keep you down because those things just simply happen to you. They happen to you for somebody else. Matter of fact, they happened for you. They didn't even happen to you any longer. When you leave this room, I want you to remember it didn't happen to you. It happened for you. And the way that trauma affects a person's identity is when you start to walk in that trauma, you start to think, I am not worthy of a good marriage because I had such a failed marriage. I am not worthy of a good job because I don't have the credentials to have that job. I am not worthy of speaking on a stage with all these people who have all this experience because my story is not like theirs. But again, you don't want it to affect your identity. So the first thing I tell myself, as soon as I start to have those thoughts, I lock my thumbs. I put my trauma ain't my mama, and it can't tell me what to do. It will not tell me to run from this good marriage because I had a bad marriage. It will not tell me to run from this stage because I don't have doctor in front of my name. Not anymore. And the first step toward healing from adversity is acknowledging it. Just like the first step, overcoming addiction. Hello, you overcome the addiction by acknowledging it. That's the first step to healing. I had to admit that I had a murder on my record. I went around for many years saying it was an accident. It was an accident. You don't know. I accidentally killed my uncle. I shot a gun in the air. The bullet ricocheted off a sign. The truth of the matter is most people didn't hear that story because when they pulled my background check, I didn't get the job that I was well qualified for at any other time. As soon as they pulled my background check, they saw manslaughter on there. I didn't get the call back. And so because I didn't get the call back, I didn't even get to tell people my story. So what I had to do for Rachel was I just had to just go, look, girl, you got a manslaughter. What will you do now? Okay, now I need to start a business. I started a cleaning company with my husband. And when I started that cleaning company with my husband, we were able to employ people with backgrounds similar to ours. My husband has a felony. He went joyriding in his aunt's car at the age of 18. She reported the car stolen, and he has a grand larceny. The man is over 50 now. But this felony from way back then has affected his entire life. So we started a business. And when we started that business, we were able to see right then and there, we weren't supposed to have those jobs that people were already signing us out of anyway. We were supposed to be starting a business so that we could hire people like ourselves. And so again, just remembering that trauma is not my mama. Trauma is not your mama. It cannot tell you what to do is really what I want to leave you guys with. God bless you and thank you for your questions.
Thank you so much, Rachel. That was really a powerful presentation today. So, and so with great energy. And you have a great questions from our audience. Let me pick it up for a few questions for you. So, how do you distinguish between acknowledging trauma and letting it define you?
Well, the one way you distinguish it is if trauma stops you from doing something that you know you are passionate about, or that that, I love working with children. And for a long time, trauma kept me from working with children. This 30 years ago almost was when my conviction happened, and it kept me from working with children. Now I go into schools all across the country and I teach young people how to overcome that trauma. So if it keeps you from doing what you know is in your heart to do, it is defining you. And again, once you leave this room, I want you to know trauma ain't your mama, and it can't tell you what to do. From this day forward, from July 22nd, 2026, trauma can never define you. It can never stop you from doing what you are passionate about, what you really, really have in your heart to do.
That was really a great energy, ma'am. And one more question for you. What does living beyond adversity mean to you?
Living beyond adversity means you don't forget about it, but you take what you've been through and you use it to reach other people. You use it to keep other people from going through adversity, and even to pull them out of the adversity they're in right now. I know when my daughter lost her first child, I've never lost a child. But when my daughter lost her first child, which would have been my first grandchild, I didn't know how that would affect me until it did. But now a lot of people say, well, it wasn't your child. Yeah, but as a grandmother, as a soon coming grandmother, I have prepared for that. So now I work with other grandmothers who have lost their grandchildren as well, and I'm able to remind them that just because the child loss didn't physically happen to your womb, the fact that your child lost a child is very traumatic, especially when it's your baby who's grieving and you can't take that grief away from them. And so again, just being able to go through it, live through it, because you got to process it yourself first, because you can only take people as far as you've gone. And so once you process that thing properly and you navigate the pain and you find a purpose in it, you go back and you reach other people who are right where you once were, and you pull them out of that pit as well. Thank you so much that you love my passion. I'm very passionate about it. As you can see, Dr. Streeter, this is what I do. It's a genuine thing. And now that I'm able to teach this framework in schools, the trauma ain't my mama. I get to go in and I get to speak to young people again. Being a broken adult, or an adult who has gone through trauma and just stored it, hoping you would be able to get over it by going to school and getting triple master's degrees, and it's a lot easier to work with children who are just now starting to experience some traumatic things and help them process it so that they can be whole on the outside. When trauma does come their way, they already have the processing they need, as opposed to trying to help adults. It's a lot easier working with youth. But I love being able to come to these type of events and speak about the truth with adults as well.
Thank you so much, Richardson, for sharing your great presentation with the Virtual Summit 2026. So, as you asked for, there will be a copy of this video. So, we will give lifetime access to the drive link. So, anytime you can watch your presentation and you can share it in your all the social networking platforms. So, please do join our next sessions as well and keep encouraging other speakers. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye.
Will do. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Jalindo Rai. Please do join the next session.
61 people. Okay, nice. So it seems to me like we might have a few more minutes because it's not letting me back out of this session. So I'm not really sure how to go out. This is all new to me. So I appreciate you guys for coming in. I do see it's about 57 people in the session. That's a beautiful thing. I think we're going to the next session. I just don't know how to get there. See, something like this would have made me go into trauma mode back into I shut the computer down and walk away, thinking I'm messing it up. I'm doing it wrong. Oh my God, this is why I never do this thing. This is why I don't even try. No. Now, I'm going to come in here. I'm going to go to full screen. I'm on full screen. Okay, how do I exit? Okay, exit. Boom. There we go. All right, now I can back out. There we go. Are you sure you want to leave the session? Yes, I am. So it seems to me like we still have about 10 minutes. I saw the countdown clock. Close your tab and sign in for the next one. I did, but now it says that we have 10 minutes. So since we have 10 minutes, I'm just wondering, do you guys have any more questions? I would love to be able to walk you through some other techniques if possible. So here's another good one. I see that there's still 52 people in the session. So here's another good breathing technique. Anytime something just gets sporadic and you don't, it seems to be overstimulating your nervous system, right? You're going to take one breath in, and then right at the very end, through your nose, you're going to hold it for 4. Breathe it out. So you breathe in through your nose. Right at the very end, take one quick sip of air, hold it for 4. You want to breathe it out for double the amount of time that you held it in. And again, you're just bringing yourself back to center, because sometimes we either have the fight or flight response. And when we have the fight or flight response, our body naturally wants to avoid the danger. Our body naturally wants to keep us safe. That's what our brain is designed to do. Keep us safe. It's one of the reasons why I put this beach on the background, so I can remind myself that I am safe. But because our body to keep us, recenter ourselves, might start brain. Always be in control of our emotions. And this thing is being, but we are definitely in control of our brain.